whether that's a tagline, whether it's within the image, whether it's in kind of the headline. There'll be certain demands for copy approval, for headline approval from a PR side, from an agency that works for any of these commercial companies. And from a journalistic point of view, I think there's a real kind of concern, and certainly The Guardian is one of the newspapers that have quite a principled approach from a commercial point of view. They just don't do it. They just don't talk to they'll forego any access that might be coming their way, and that's a choice they make, and it's obviously a commitment they make to their readers. But if you pick up the Sun or kind of the Times and you flick through any of the kind of sports pages, and really if you flick through the showbiz pages and the TV features as well, there will be some subtle and some unsubtle kind of commercial references within there that has been part of that deal that's been done to get the interview over the line, to get that exclusive content, to get that headline, that story. And I think it's an ongoing conversation that people will have within the media on both sides as to what the balance is and how much in one direction it's tilting. And it's something just to be aware of kind of when you're considering how you engage with kind of commercial companies. I thought I'd just touch on a kind of a little bit of social media and how it's kind of played its part with my experience working with the England team, with the England players, but also from kind of a disciplinary point of view. It's something that in its infancy kind of caused quite a few issues. Might be familiar with some of these, but social media, particularly Twitter, I think is the main kind of channel that we're really talking about here, has that ability, and it cuts across sport. It's in kind of everyone's lives now, and obviously we would have seen Gary Lineker across the front page of the Sun this last week. He makes a remark about politics, and suddenly the Sun are calling for his head, saying that he should be fired by the BBC. It's completely inappropriate, the comments that he's made. If we go back to the early days, the picture in the middle was posted by Ryan Babel, who was a Liverpool player at the time, and he posted this picture of Howard Webb wearing a Man United shirt because I think he'd given a penalty in one of the matches, and obviously implying that he was biased. These kind of things fell under the disciplinary committee. They fell under the same area as a pre-match, post-match interview. So by implying bias, by suggesting someone is making decisions based on one kind of allegiance to one team. Danny Gabardon at West Ham, by telling the fans to F off. Wayne Rooney telling Oldham or a Liverpool fan that he's going to knock him out. These are the kind of things that caused a lot of problems in the early days, and they're still continuing now. I mean, I think Twitter is approaching 10 years old, but still the mistakes of those early few years, high-profile kind of situations, are still being repeated now. And I think the ability to fire off something in a few seconds in the hands of someone that might not necessarily be hugely educated or understanding the ramifications, it can create an issue within sport and in culture in general, where people are able to express an opinion quite quickly and quite easily, without a filter or without an editor or without someone kind of just giving that check and balance and saying, is that worth putting out in the public domain? And a lot of these players faced punishment, whether it be a fine, a 2-match ban. I think 3 or 4 match ban is probably the biggest that we've seen recently, with the Burnley player who historically had posted homophobic comments, and he was banned, I think, for 4 matches. So some of these examples, it doesn't really matter if you've even said it kind of in the last 10 or 15 minutes. I think it was 2012 that the Burnley player had tweeted, and this was when he was a non-league player, tweeted about his views on homosexuality. They were deemed to be inappropriate, bringing the game into disrepute, and he was banned for 4 games. So I think social media, there's always positives and negatives. It creates such a direct access with supporters, and certainly one of the things we tried to do at the FA was open up and really engage with people, because where you can bring and almost edit out that filter of a journalist in the middle, you can directly engage and answer people's questions. It can be quite refreshing, and it can be quite engaging, those questions that you get from people on social media that are not, you know, a kind of a 40 or 50-year-old football writer who just want to get, you know, whatever the issue of the day is, and they want to flog it to death until they get the line that they want. Sometimes cutting straight through to talk to people directly can be a bit more effective and kind of build the reputation of players. But there's also negatives, and one of the situations we had, I'll talk a little bit about how this kind of built up through the media. So Ashley Cole, we'll get on to the start of this situation. Came about from a traditional media. Roy Hodgson speaking to someone he thought was just another passerby on the tube. A day before he named his England squad, told this chap that Rio was probably never going to play for England again, Rio Ferdinand. The following day, that was back page splash. One of those kind of doorstepping, the guy didn't know that he was a journalist kind of things, but effectively he spoke out of turn, and that was the story. Made an apology, kind of tried to kind of dress it up in different language, but effectively it was a bit of a gotcha moment for Roy, and that was the story that came out. As that built up, it became more of a pressure on kind of the history of the John Terry situation, and a week later the written reasons were published by the FA, and this usually happens about 2 or 3 weeks after they've had a disciplinary verdict. So John Terry, who was banned for 4 matches by the FA for alleged racial comments in a match towards Anton Ferdinand, the written reasons for his 4-match ban, which he then decided to retire from England because of that, the outcome of that case. The written reasons were published, and in that they talked about Ashley Cole's role as a witness, and effectively outlined that he was an unreliable kind of witness in the case. So the day that the England squad met up, Ashley Cole tweeted, "Well done FA, I lied, did I? # bunch of twats." That causes a slight issue with a player that's in an England squad. No matter what sport you're talking about a group of people who are now kind of under the kind of the control of the governing body, whether it's England Rugby, they're under the RFU, the ECB for England Cricket, and so on and so on. So he's calling out the kind of the group that he's now meeting up to the following day. So there was, from a media point of view, as soon as that, I was actually on the phone to a journalist talking about this story. I was talking to Rob Draper, the Mail on Sunday, about this story as the tweet appeared. So the question that began from the media was, what had gone in the written reasons? Did that have any impact on Ashley Cole's role within the England squad? Would he be subject to some kind of ban as an England player? And I was explaining that no, that wouldn't be the case. It was 2 separate things. This was his club position, and it's the FA disciplinary side, which is separate from the England squad. And the tweet came through, and the story very quickly became something else. So in the space of maybe 2 hours that afternoon, we quite quickly had to, from a PR point of view, talk to Roy, explain the situation, and work out quite quickly what the best way to rectify the situation, or effectively damage limitation. And we agreed that the best route for Roy to speak directly to Ashley, and for it to be known publicly that Ashley had apologised to Roy, that his comments were in the heat of the moment. He didn't effectively kind of mean them, and also Roy would say that his place within the squad was not under threat because of these comments. The slight complication was the following day we had a meet up at St George's Park, where we had a visit from Kate and Wills, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. William is the president of the FA, so he was formally opening the new training ground, and Ashley Cole that kind of waded into that situation, obviously all across the back pages of the media, but in reality, the way that we were able to manage it through the personalities involved, it kind of played out quite well. I think William at this point was sharing a joke with Ashley Cole, saying that he might have to put him in the dungeon, and it became almost like a light-hearted kind of story that we were able to move on from. He apologised to the chairman, David Bernstein. He pretty much apologised to everyone, the president, the chairman, the manager, the other players, and from a personal point of view, he actually managed to get over that situation quite quickly. But it just shows the power of social media and how quickly a story can become, front and back page news when people don't really necessarily think before they send out a message. So that's the kind of the other social media situation from the FA. I'm going to move on to talk a little bit about Sky and kind of the work that we do on campaigns there. It's obviously a lot more broadcast focused, a lot more commercial, and we don't have the same direct relationship with players, teams, competitions that we do at the FA. But it's a massive business, and that kind of you can see on the slide some of the things that we've been doing over the last year as a company, and really I suppose the key focus from a Sky Sports point of view is that competitive element of our broadcast deals, the rights that we've done over the last few years, some of them going into the billions of pounds, and how through PR are we able to kind of keep that clear narrative of Sky as the unrivaled broadcaster, because it's certainly in the last few years been slightly under threat from the competition. So even in here, just to pick out some of the kind of the interesting things, obviously the new technology, both in Sky Q Box, Now TV, Sky VR, and also kind of the sheer weight of numbers.